here in Rovigo, in Conservatorio Venezia, and in all the organization. So it's also really a pleasure for me to be in this opening day about this program, about connections. And so please also tell me during the presentation or even after if you would like to join a conversation or make some questions or some comments about it. I will be very happy because also in my experience, I think all what we really remember it's always about the connection with people and exchange of ideas that we have in such these situations. And especially it's, I would say it's also lucky conservatory that really can organize this kind of intense and also extremely international meeting. So it's really great joy. As a doctoral student, I'm also in the program of Italian piano music, and I'm doing researches on Ottorino Respighi's piano music. Ottorino Respighi is a really so very well-known composer, also abroad, I think, but especially for his orchestral music. So, oh, sorry, but already something not working. No. Okay, sorry, we try again. Okay, yeah. Especially, yes, for his orchestral works, maybe you also know his Pines of Rome, Fountains of Rome, Roman Festival, so all these orchestral works. But we don't really know him so much for his piano music. And as a pianist, of course, and a lover of his orchestral music, I always thought, like, it would be really interesting to know more and also to listen to more his piano music. That's why I started my project with an orchestral work with piano. So one of his piano concerto. I don't know if every one of you knows some of his orchestral works with piano. I think they are really interesting composition, and I took especially one concert that is the concert in A minor, and just to make some dates. So Ottorino Respighi was born in Italy in 1879 and composed this piece in 1902. So he was quite young, he was still almost studying, and now we are in 2025 and we only have 3 recordings of this concerto. And I find it really surprising because even if it's a young work, it's also anyway interesting work to analyze and to play. Also, I would say it was fun. I could play it with the orchestra, and because of course I think it's really important, like we are doing here in Rovigo, to share our researching also through the performances, because we are first of all musicians, and we would like to share the music from a practical point of view. Now, today, I will speak you about another piece that is only for piano, and is the 3 preludes on Gregorian melodies. They are 3 pieces, and this piece, as you can hear already from the title, is inspired from something, let's say, ancient. So the compositional system of Ottorino Respighi has different influences. So we were speaking before about connections, for example, and here I would say the same, because he was born in Bologna, so he studied with Luigi Torchi and Giuseppe Martucci, but then as a first viola of the Teatro Comunale in Bologna, he had the opportunity to go to St. Petersburg and to meet Rimsky-Korsakov. So that's why also in his music we can hear some of let's say, Russian, sometimes melodies or Russian style in his music, like in the rhythm or also in the orchestral sound, I would say, that he brings also to the piano, for example. And then later, as he was also very complete and polyedric figure and musician, he could also play the piano. He was doing accompaniment in Berlin, and then he had the opportunity to meet Max Bruch. But as a background of everything, of course, there were a lot of his own interests, and especially like interesting for ancient melodies, and that brings him to study the Graduale Romanum in 1999. So since the adolescence, we have some, how to say, stories about, for example, so the sister of Ottorino Respighi and also his wife, Elsa Olivieri San Giacomo, that was also a student of him. And they are always saying that he was really since young age studying a lot in the library, in the bibliothèque, always transcribing Frescobaldi, Johann Sebastian Bach, so a lot of really far away musicians, because he was really liking this compositional system probably and sound. So he came then to the Graduale Romano. That's the, let's say, the complete, the book that collects all the chants of the Eucharistic celebration, and that was again sometimes in the centuries was again from some pope did again. So, for example, in 1908, so while Ottorino Respighi was almost, I don't know, 20, 30 years old, and he was doing his studies. There was a reformation from Pope X that invited all musicians and also the church to use again this Gregorian repertoire for the Mass and everything. And maybe also this cultural influence bring him again to study really the Graduale Romano. So, 3 preludes that were published in 1922, and I could study his manuscript in Fondazione Cini in Venice. There is this huge, beautiful library with the Fondo Ottorino Respighi, so we can really find lot of volumes about Ottorino Respighi's letters and everything. And I was really lucky, and it was really an honor to see his manuscript. And especially this is a abbozzo manoscritto. It means it's a sort of draft even before the first edition, because it's not the complete, let's say, it's not the definitive first edition, because there are also some deleted pages, some deleted parts, and I can show you some pictures of something that we analyzed. So, which is the point of my research now, and also my presentation today. I would like to really have a reply to some of these questions, because we say it's getting from the Graduale Romanum, probably because of these Gregorian melodies. Of course, we have some sources, and we have some hypotheses, we have some reply already. But looking at this manuscript, I find something that maybe can put some more questions, I would say, I don't know. Also, yeah, so for example, here we have some sources, some doctoral dissertations, and also some published work. Especially the most important, the most known are the one from Christoph Lamm, that was the one that curated all his works and studied really all his opus. And the first one before Christoph Flamm, so the first one in life to do this kind of work was Potito Pedarra. And so, going to the first question, in this piece, okay, we said we have several open hypotheses, and here you have some also some references. So some of the musicologists, according, for example, to the thing that one of the theme of this prelude, it's getting from this Surrexit Dominus or another chants from the Graduale Romanum. But the thing that I find interesting is that, where is it? Yeah, actually we have, okay, yeah, it's here. So we don't have some reference to people who studied this manuscript. So I never find in all the sources that I could read and I could study it, and I'm still looking for anyone who is really speaking about this manuscript, about the fact that there are some pages deleted, how was his compositional process, that I think it's really interesting, as we are also doing with other composers. And especially, there is the writing in the, for example, the first page. So we have the prelude number 2. That's actually the prelude number 1 in the final edition, with the writing 4th tomo, so quarto tomo. And tomo means, as in English, tome, volume, a huge book. So it make me think about a reference to a huge book that Ottorino speaking was using, and I think this is a reference to the Graduale Romanum. Of course, we don't know which edition of the Graduale Romanum he was using, because we have a lot since in this time, in 1991, because the Graduale Romanum collects all the chants that are really ancient. Even if we can think that he probably used the 1908 edition. Of course, this is an open question that I'm trying to fill. And also another writing in the prelude number 3. Also, he writes 264 and first tomo. So again, another reference to something. I think this is really important, and I found any sources speaking about that. So also the other part that I find interesting, as I was mentioned before, is some of the deleted pages. Here we have an example. This is just mine manual transcriptions. So of course, because we cannot reproduce now his manuscript, so I try to really try to depict the same that Ottorino Respighi did, and there are also a lot of deleted, like you can see with the pencil, and that he was deleting something, and really if you analyze the score with a nice light, you can really see what he was doing. And for example, I also find interesting the fact that here, like in the previous image, so for example, we in the end, so in the 3rd pentagram, we have this letter A, and it reminds to a session that he was writing in another page. And for example, in this page, 4 bis, that then he deleted, we have also the A again, and see how he was writing. So how he was imaging the process, the compositional process. And especially also how he was working with the teams, how he was working with the register, because we can see a lot. This is also, you can hear in this piece that I will play, that is using a lot of different registers, because of course it's coming again from the orchestral vision. And another curiosity about this piece is then 5 years later, he could transcribe this work for orchestra. So maybe you can also know this version for orchestra, and it's really interesting to hear how he processed the various register of the keyboard with different instruments. So here, yes, another example of the manual transcription that he, that he delayed, as you can see. So just a short overview on the pieces. So there are 3 pieces. First one, molto lento, in the ABA form. The interesting thing that I invite you to hear is the fact that it's never repeating the same as the beginning. So the part A, it's not always as the first one. And yes, also as Christoph Lamm says, the basic idea of the piece is to vary an unchanged theme, both in sound and in compositional technique. So it's always the same theme, but always changing with sound and techniques and registers. The second piece is completely contrasting in comparison to the first one. So it's tempestoso, is really also, if you hear the orchestral version, is really like a really a run of all the instruments together, getting to this opening in C-sharp minor. And an interesting thing also here that you can, for example, hear, it's again this contrast between and dialogue, I would say. As we were already opening this day with connections and dialogues, I would say even here we have dialogues between different register that actually come from the, the passion for the ancient chants, because in the Gregorian chants also we have the antiphona, and we somehow have choir and soloist, and so this reply that you can hear, it really brings us to the this ancient system. And we also have something similar in the third movement. So the third movement is again as the beginning, lento, ABI form, stepwise melody, also something coming from the ancient, from the medieval chants, and again this dialogue between voices, as you can also see here, also from the score. So I hope you can enjoy the listening of this piece, and really I'm open to your question at the end or also now. Thank you.
Anyone
Of course.
wants to ask anything? Let's break the ice.
Was it a new piece for you, or I don't know if someone used other pieces from Respighi for piano music? Okay. Maybe it was new. Okay. So there is a sonata that he wrote, and there are six pieces. Then there are some transcription from Frescobaldi also, and then there are some four-hands pieces. And so, yeah, there are not so much actually, but at least 1 hour and a bit more also of program.
I ask something.
With pleasure.
And I speak for the students so they can ask you more about this.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you make the orchestral sound with piano?
Interesting question. I'm trying to somehow thinking about I would say yes, the different register give us also the brave that we have to look for. That sometimes also for pianists we know it's sometimes difficult to find, because it's very important. We cannot make music if we don't breathe. But at the same time, we know that other instruments, like wind instruments, they need to breathe to make their music. So I think this is already something that can help us, because when we have different register, it's like in the orchestra. Of course, there is a dialogue between different sections, but there is also a break between each other. There is a time. So I think this is something that can help us. And talking about the sound, I think for sure his orchestral works also can bring us some ideas about, and what made me interested in his music was especially this sound. I love his orchestral pieces, and yes, so I think this is really interesting. We already have a clue somehow from his music, from his orchestral works, to bring in our also piano works. So this piece, for example, has been orchestrated. Yes, 5 years later, in 1926. So if you, but it has a different name. So you have to find for church glasses, I think it's in English. It's vetrate di chiesa. And there is also a fourth piece in these orchestral transcriptions. And yeah, and it's almost, I would say it's almost the same what he did from the piano part to the orchestral. He didn't change so much somehow. There are different titles, and also about this there is a story you can find online, but also like in the archive in Venice, there is also the story, how do they choose the name for the orchestral works. And this is also interesting to see if there are some relation to other input, you know, in the music, that it's not only, okay, Gregorian chants, but maybe it's always some inspiration. And also, what I find interesting is that this, also the name church glasses reminds to something also huge, and maybe also the atmosphere, the sound, the rich sound, that also to come back to the question somehow, I think it's also useful, of course, to work on the pedal, how to make the sound, and of course it's always different, because in every hall, in every room in which we are playing, it's different, so it's something that we should experiment every time new. But yes, so to come back to your question, this work was orchestrated, yes. And I'm not sure, I think also another one, now I don't remember the title, but yeah, this one, yes, it was really having fun to do this orchestration. As a pianist, probably you know the orchestration of the Etude Tableau from Sergei Rachmaninoff. Some of them were orchestrated by Respighi.
That's not a question, but I just want to say that I really like how you played.
Thank you.
Especially ending, it was sounding like a meditation. How do you think, which instruments will be like in orchestra in this ending?
Okay, yes.
Which instruments you think would they be?
I think it's strings, and I think also in the orchestration they are strings. Of course, maybe there are also some wind instruments, but yeah, because it's like everything is already said at the end of the piece, and especially I think in the final prelude, it's like, of course, when he's doing like more working on the sound, on the, let's say, the chant, really, the melody. It takes, I don't know, oboe and a lot of also wind instruments. I think in the end it's really just a coda, so it's something like, okay, we don't really need now to sing, but we need just a color and something maybe, yes, made by the string, and anyway, everything soft. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so if there aren't any questions more, thank you so much, and
So
thank you.
we are heading towards Borsari, and yeah, we can start.
I wish you a nice
Yeah, we clean
week.
up a little bit the stage, so after some of the classes will be here. I mean, one of the master class will be held here, and at 5 o'clock. We have dress rehearsal here for the students that are going to play at 6. So the students that have to play tonight will come here at 5, and we arrange like 10 minutes each to try the piano, okay? And after the coffee, and before 1 o'clock, before starting, some of you haven't seen the school yet, the conservatory yet. So we are going to show you a little bit of the school. Not many of the collaborators speak English, but they are very nice. So you will try to communicate with Italian people easily, I hope. Okay? So yes, let's move on, and we'll clean up, and then we all go together to the coffee place.